good afternoon. Welcome to our afternoon chat. My name is Paige Ewing, and with me today I have Kyle Penny, who's a student at Seton Hall University, and I have Erica Ewing, who's a student at East Stroudsburg University. Today, we're going to be talking about what it's like being a student during COVID-19. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about what it's like being a student during COVID-19. You know, the balance between school and home life, challenges of studying online, are there any pros to it? And of course, how this will change schooling and what we're experiencing next year, whether we're graduating or if we're going to be returning to college. So for both of you, Kyle and Erica, what has it been like, coming home and now having to study at home?
Well, I think it's very different, to say the least. It's weird having your family realize that this is different and that you have something that's very important to you, and you're not trying to be rude when you say, I need to go upstairs and spend the day in my room to study, and you're not trying to avoid them. I'd say that is a very big difference.
Yeah.
For sure. In terms of just balancing home life and school life, it's very different. And I know, at least in my case, it's kind of hard to say, hey, I'm not in high school anymore. The schedule that used to work back then doesn't work anymore. I have classes that are late at night or really early in the morning, and it doesn't always match up with, meal plans, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's been the hardest part about mine is, we're getting into finals now. And so the schedule that was established over these past few weeks is now totally changed, because we have big final projects, we have papers, and then of course just final periods where for 3 hours we're sitting there and we need quiet and we need to do our final. And to take 3 hours out of somebody else's time to be like, don't interrupt me, is really hard when it comes to a family unit. When they're like, it's dinner.
Yeah, definitely. I found that during Zoom calls, Mom will yell up the stairs and be like, go do this, your chores and stuff, and then I'm not muted in my Zoom call and I kind of forget, and I yell down the stairs and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just yelled in the middle of my Zoom call. That is a true story. So yeah, that's definitely.
And in my family, I have a dad that's working remotely, my mom works for the school district, is working remotely, and 2 siblings that are also on. So especially being rural as we are, Wi-Fi is not great. So prioritizing, you have a test at 10, I guess I can postpone this call so that you can actually see what's going on, and that sort of thing, budgeting out who gets the bandwidth sort of thing, which of course at college you never worry about that.
Yeah, that's been a huge thing, just finding spaces within our homes to say, oh, okay, I can study here, I can do this here. Because for me, studying up in my room, all I want to do is take a nap. I'm by my bed, it's comfy, it's warm, so I come down to the kitchen. But then doing that, I know, I'm going to get interrupted about 10,000 times, and is that something that you just have to get used to? And so it's definitely been an adjustment in all of that. And then, of course, like you said, chores and, balancing other people's lives with yours.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of those challenges that you guys have come across, just particularly studying online and learning online?
Well, as a biology major, all my courses are strictly lab-based. I do have lectures, but I have 6 hours of lab each week, so trying to learn about organisms and different plants and stuff like that through a computer screen, whereas we were supposed to be dissecting them and looking at samples under the microscope, and just learning the techniques. I can learn what each part of the animal is through the computer, but I can't learn how to prepare this type of slide or use this type of microscope, stuff like that.
Exactly. You kind of lose that hands-on tactical practice where it's a lot of theory is important, but especially with bio, you have to be able to do it as well.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, one of the things that has been challenging is even finding that groove, because at school you're so focused on the task at hand. You know, you have your classes, you have your study periods, and that sort of thing. And when I'm at home, it's just the click of a button away. So I don't get in that mind space of, oh, I'm going to class. I'm just sitting in my room, and then I get distracted, and I say, okay, well, I'm listening to this class. Can I do something else? Can I go clean this? Do the, you know, it's not, you're not being so focused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, especially for us, because we are the generation of multitaskers, which is not necessarily a good thing, you know, like, multitasking, they say, don't do it, you're never going to learn from it, but especially now that you're home, and you can just, you know, mute yourself, and then you're like, oh, let me work on this other thing, and are you really learning?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like that scene from Mean Girls, where she's like, oh, what is it? And she's staring at the boy, and then she, like, remembers later on. It's the same thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I was doing something else. Like, what was he lecturing about when you're taking that test or whatever that's been like?
Right.
And so kind of going into that, what has been, like, tests and quizzes? What are those like online? I'm sure that, you know, for me, being a film, TV, radio major, we don't really do testing that way. It's very practical work. So what has that been like?
It's been different depending on which class. So I'm econ major, so it's a lot of business and math related programs. And depending on the teacher, it can range from a take-home test where the professor says outright, look, I know you're going to look at the internet. I know that you are going to probably have your notebook right there. You might call someone. That's fine. I had one professor that has said, yeah, that's use your materials if that's what you're going to do. Other ones are trying to make it just like in a classroom setting, you know, no chances for academic dishonesty or anything like that, and no teamwork, anything. So, and that's come to a bit of backlash from students just in terms of they use proctoring services that now we're learning, oh, well, this has, you know, some implications that might not be good. This might be a type of spyware type thing, and students don't know how to fall on that because you either fail the test or you use it and you don't know where your data is going.
Yeah, exactly. And what has it been like for you, tests and quizzes and things like that?
It's definitely been interesting because, like, I don't have as many math-based things, but for chemistry, we have 30 minutes to print out the file, take the quiz, and scan it back into the computer and put it up to the Dropbox.
Wow. Yeah.
And that in itself, when we were in class, we had 30 minutes to take the quiz just alone.
Yeah.
And it's extremely stressful. And I found myself having a really hard time with this. So I actually contacted my professor and was like, I'm having a hard time, like, managing, like, it's stressing me out. And he's allowed me to take it after class where I can Zoom with him and, like, ask questions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which, for me, with a learning disability, that's very helpful because it just obviously is helpful. So I'm definitely thankful for that. I definitely think that teachers or professors have been a lot more accommodating, given our circumstances.
Yeah. And so do you find that as well in yours about, like, your professors being more accommodating than usual, or are they a little bit more, like, on the ball with things?
I mean, certainly this has been the time of group projects, and as you become more of an upperclassman, it's less that straight testing, you know, regurgitate this information. It's very much what can you create. And I've found that a lot of professors are being accommodating, but sometimes in ways that almost is counterproductive. There were things such as group projects, and whereas you would always be in class and you'd be interacting with people that are in your group, being reminded by the professor, hey, this is due. I know in 2 separate instances for myself, I've had people in those team projects that have forgotten. And then we rush to get the work done by a certain date, and because the teachers are trying to be lenient, trying to do the right thing, trying to be nice and accommodating, they extend that deadline at the last minute and say, oh, okay, well, you have 2 more days. Which is helpful if you do forget, you know, and luckily I'm in a spot where I don't tend to forget that I have those projects. But for those people that did put in that work, it's a bit hard to say, oh, okay, well, there's 2 more days, but I rushed to the last minute. So definitely being accommodating, whether or not it's helping everyone, I don't know, but I think it is helping certain people.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, and I don't know if this is the same for both of you, but just the way that my classes are completely different than when we started. Being such a hands-on, tactical kind of major, we've kind of changed what we're doing in our entire curriculum of learning. And that's been really hard because then our professors are kind of just like, it's a wash, you're a senior, it's fine. Just get your work done and do it by yourself because you can. And that's been really frustrating. So have you seen that kind of just like the things that you were originally going to learn are now totally different to what you're learning now? Like the curriculum's changed?
For my major at least, I don't think that the curriculum's changed that much, because for our lectures, they're the same thing really, and since I'm a freshman and I'm in mostly like basic, like I'm in bio too, like those kind of classes where we're only following a PowerPoint, that's fine, but definitely, like I said before, labs, they can't expect us to dissect anything or so definitely that hands-on experience is not there, and they're trying their best with like online lab simulators and like different like modules and YouTube videos, and definitely using like the resources that we're lucky enough to have like in today's world, but it's definitely different.
Yeah.
And for me, it really not much has changed. The business college at the graduate level already had mostly online courses. So the transition was really quick for our department. I know across the rest of the school it's been a little bit slower. But it's really raised the question with a lot of these professors, and they've said it right in class, why are we meeting in class? Because it's not that, they haven't seen a drop-off in grades. They said maybe what we change it to is online instruction, and then you come for a proctor's exam in the classroom. And then you go back to online instruction. They're saying, why do we need to do it when clearly it's working? And we're getting the same material to us. And that might just be the nature of the course, is very lecture heavy, that sort of thing. But yeah, it hasn't changed that much, and it's really starting to raise questions as to how does this change going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great question. What is education, not only higher education, but education from pre-K all the way through high school? How is they going to change, and how are they going to be affected by what has happened and all the things that we've learned? Zoom, classes online, these modules, all these different tactics that these teachers are doing. And I think that's really, really interesting of how is this going to change the entire institution of schooling? I think that's really cool.
I think that's a really good question. There's going to be some major changes, and I think it's something that it's really exciting to look forward to for the future, because I think things are going to be very different after this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope that it makes education, especially higher education, more accessible to people of all financial backgrounds, because especially if you're able to do things off campus and you lose that cost of housing and a meal plan and everything, I think that by offering students the ability to go to schools around the country and possibly around the world without physically having to be there, I think that that's going to open a lot of doors for a lot of people.
Absolutely. So now we throw the question to you. What do you think about this COVID-19 situation if you're a student or if you have students? And then, of course, how do you think the entire institution of education is going to change because of the situation? Go and have an afternoon chat. We'll see you soon.